Hello and welcome to the second series of Talking Bottom. We're starting with Digger, of course. I'm Angela Johnson.
I'm Matt Brooks.
And I'm Paul Tanter.
And yeah, Series 2, Episode 1, Digger. Now, does that refer to Gold Digger? I never got the joke if not.
I think so.
Oh yeah, I always assumed that was the only meaning for it.
Do you know what a bottom digger is?
Is it something like rummaging around in a bumhole or something? Is it? No?
Well, it might be to you.
Is it gay slang?
Well, I don't know, but what I found from just a very innocent search was that it's actually like a trench digger that they would have used in sort of World War One.
Okay.
So it would be for digging trenches. Yeah, very sort of long, thin, spiky kind of shovel.
I've always thought the digger refers to Lady Natasha, but of course it could actually kind of refer to Richie, couldn't it? Because he thinks he's going to marry into wealth and royalty, doesn't he?
I never even thought of that as a...
Literally, it only just occurred to me.
Yeah, it's not a motive really. He wants to marry into a vagina, doesn't he? He doesn't care at all.
But he thinks, he thinks she's rich as well, so I'll buy a kitty back when I sell off her
some of her land, that's right. Now, one thing about this episode that always bothered me as a child watching it, the first very bit, when Lady Lineker gets up, she says, "Oh, sorry, I kept you waiting," and then you hear a laugh, like it's kind of tried to be edited out. And I always thought, what's going on there? We've missed something there, and you don't find out until on
bottom fluff,
bottom enlargement. The scene they cut out with them in the waiting room.
Yeah, so quite a long scene at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. Now, I haven't seen that scene in a while, but I have a memory of it involving Nadia Sawalha playing a receptionist or something.
I'm not too sure, but she comes out of the room that Lily Lineker's in, so she is working for Lily Lineker in some capacity.
And does Richie try it on with her or something like that? Okay, have you now?
I watched it in preparation.
Oh, I didn't think to do that
for this episode.
Refresh
it is online. You can Google. I mean, I'm sure. It's on Bottom Fluff, obviously. But
when you watch it, can you see why it was cut?
I think it was for time.
Okay.
That's all I can say. Other than that, there's a little bit of repetition of him saying that's a smashing blouse you've got on.
Right.
But there's an entire brilliant first bit where basically Eddie farts. Okay. That's the opening. They're sat in front of the mags.
I don't remember
Eddie
this at all.
leans over, lets out a massive trump.
Right.
And it's a stinker, so it's where Eddie's like obviously just sort of doing, and Richie reacts, and it's like, so you had the egg.
Right,
and they reused the material in Bottom Live and in a few bits of Series 3. So they talk about being in Weston-super-Mare and Richie trying on a thong. The bottom enlargement bits in Fluff were always fascinating to me when I did watch them, because it's like, oh wow, new bottom to watch. So it's a shame they weren't in the episodes, but then again, it's not like they've been lost.
Yeah, but yes, that does kind of explain why they're at the beginning of this episode. You just got the sort of slight down, the end of a laughter from the audience, haven't you? Before we go any further, I'll just read the synopsis for this episode very quickly from iTunes. Eddie and Richie join Mrs. Lineker's love bureau, hoping to find their perfect woman. Richie's video tells the viewers that he is, in fact, a duke, and this gets him a date with a countess from Moldavia. He invites her to his place and arranges for Eddie to pretend to be his butler for the evening. That's it, that's the synopsis.
Now we're cracking to the point episode synopsis.
This is obviously the opening episode of the second series. It's following off the back of a very strong first series, in my opinion, for the show. But also it's following quite quickly.
It was a year after, wasn't it? 1 year.
Yeah. If something follows quickly, it's usually because they've built up a good bit of momentum with it and they've kind of hit their stride. And I think overall this episode kind of proves that. They really went in strong. There was no kind of difficult second album syndrome with this series.
Not at all. If anything, this is the best series of Bottom, I would say. Series 2 seemed the tightest one. There's not really a shit episode of Bottom in this first or second series. There's no shit ones, but sure, there's not any weak links at all.
There's no weak episodes, but I think it's interesting that Digger starts Series 2 and it's very heavily built around them trying to get off with the bird. Series 1, Smells, is very heavily the plot is about them trying to get off with birds specifically. So I found that, like, when I rewatched, I was like, oh, that's interesting that they start each series with the setup that Richie and Eddie are trying to get off with birds. So in case you're new to it, you absolutely know straight away that they're a pair of losers who can't chat up women, but they're desperate to have that in their lives.
Sure.
And in both instances turn to what was the professional help of the day, which in the first case, in the first series,
Lonely
was
Hearts,
Lonely Hearts, and this one is a dating bureau.
Yeah, exactly. Pheromone sex spray and all the things that were available in the 90s. Whereas, of course, watching it back now, did you find it a little bit like just interesting? Because obviously they'd just be on like apps and dating or whatever now. Like going and having an interview in a dating agency.
An interview? Can you not qualify to go on their books if you were that big a sadder or a loser or a sex pest? Or all these, she should have caught them, really.
I think it was part of the service, wasn't it? Like not like that, but to actually just be a welcoming sort of face that's going to talk you through the dating, maybe for the women. I mean, it's in the League of Gentlemen as well, isn't it? To make a slight tangent, they do a brilliant sketch about a really sad guy who can't get himself a woman, so he's in the dating agency there, and it's not quite so prevalent anymore because no one really goes to dating agencies in the same way.
In terms of the levels of loneliness and desperation and what people would see as sadness, I think dating agencies must be even worse than, in the eyes of people, Lonely Hearts columns. So you do Lonely Hearts columns, and if you're worse than that, you need to go somewhere where you need to be fucking interviewed. Did you notice how even the Love Bureau was incredibly grimy? Like the walls almost looked like they had scorch marks on them.
Sure. Now, also,
what's that from?
I really like how impressed Rick is when he goes into the meet. He's like, "Ooh, what have you seen that's that nice, mate?"
Yeah, it's an office with like an old computer. Wow. Even for the day, an old computer.
I suppose so.
Yeah,
but they don't have that in their flat, do they? So
a computer. They don't have a computer.
Richie doesn't get out that much.
No, sure. That's a good point. This is one of the only times where it's not a pub or somewhere that serves alcohol, I guess.
And there's promise there, isn't there? Because he might be just about to get his hands on a real woman.
When they first come into the office and Lady Lineker's saying, "Oh, how interesting," blah, 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 and they have this weird back and forth of a manic laugh, both of them, over the top. Yeah. I think that showcases how badly they deal with normal people, and they don't have the social norms and stuff. It's why they need to be there, and they're just, it's like a psychopath holding up a card of a smile, like, "Oh, I think you're meant to laugh at this point. Ah, ha 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 ha."
Yeah.
What do you?
Yeah, they don't get the social cues, do they?
No, that's right.
They don't get the social cues, but also they totally misunderstand anything in any normal situation. I mean, often to comic effect. Shall we have a look at yours now? Oh, what, right here, me
in the office. Yeah.
This episode, I noticed, was laced with double entendre, misunderstandings about things for penises and bollocks and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
There's a weird logic though. Shall we look at yours? Like in a love, I guess that is something they could ask to make sure that I've not got her piece of something.
It shows how nervous Richie is, doesn't it? Basically, he's just he's not really sure about how this is going to work. He's just so anxious to please, I suppose, and he's terrified about putting his video on as well.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the videos. Something that occurred to me. This is series 2. Some people might be seeing Bottom for the first time. I'm not sure if they come out on video yet. Now, both of their videos are kind of a microcosm of their characters. Eddie is way too cocky and arrogant and with nothing to offer there. "Hello, lady, come and get it, wiggle his bum." Come and get what? It's not even a nice pair of trousers showcasing a nice bum. And then Richie's sweaty, insecure, and a massive fantasist liar. Why the fuck does she believe that he is the Duke of Kidderminster? There's no evidence at all. She just takes him on face value, bats her hair a little bit. It's like,
she's
suddenly.
Obviously far too nice to think that somebody would come into her dating agency and lie through their teeth.
She's too trusting. Everyone who comes in here is usually honest and bears their soul to her in the hope of meeting their true partner. But Richie is the one person who's willing to lie and manipulate and cheat in order to get his end away.
Maybe she's a little bit scared of them.
I suppose so, yeah.
In the same way as a lot of people react to Richie whenever he's on one of his mad rants. So it's sort of like, oh right, okay, you're right.
His excuse for not reason he's here. I normally got loads of birds. It was a coach crash and lost 40 of them. Why were they all together? Where were they going? To the I Love Richie fan club or something?
She looks very 80s, even though it was shot in the 90s. I thought her hair, like what she's wearing...
Just to wear, like, kind of librarian-esque, like she could be Ethel Cardew.
Has the actress done much else?
Yes. She's been in quite a lot of stuff, actually. It's Lisa Maxwell, who played Lily Lineker, and she was actually in the Russ Abbott Show back in 1990, and apparently she had her own TV show called The Lisa Maxwell Show in 1991. It says short-lived on Wikipedia.
Right.
She reminds me of someone in Harry Potter, that one who's at the Ministry of Magic. Type.
Played by Imelda Staunton.
Maybe.
Because of the 80s hair.
Similar wig.
Yeah, and the shoulder pads. Yeah.
There's lots more, but I'm sure this appearance in Digger was the highlight of her career.
Not her own TV show.
But interestingly, under comedy on Wikipedia, Bottom's not listed. It's
just Russ Abbott. Wikipedia. Oh, Russ Abbott's there.
Just Russ Abbott's under her comedy section.
This episode is the first appearance of that smashing blouse you have on. There, he mentions blouse is in the first episode ever. Just says, "Oh, that's a nice blouse." The first time he says that is a smashing blouse you have on, and to Lady Lineker, and then it's followed up right again on his video.
Yeah,
the recurring joke,
and that might be why they cut it, because he says it to
the third
Nadia
time.
Sohala's character in the early bit, because it's the same.
It still works, again. But the joke is as well that.
It's his only chat-up line.
Yeah. He also says, "Oh, I've exhausted all my chat-up lines." You have only just said one there.
And
then, of course, he repeats it again to Lady Natasha.
Yeah, so it's rule of threes, you're right, so
later,
there shouldn't be four. That's another reason why it was cut.
Which kind of became a bit of a catchphrase for the show, didn't it? Even though it was never used that much in other episodes. Maybe once or twice, but Bottom was never a sitcom that went down the route of things like Keeping Up Appearances, where we'll just do the same show every week and we'll trot out the same catchphrases and it'll be a slightly different story, but with the same thing going on, you know, like hello and things like that. Not denigrating those shows, but they were shit.
Well, they had their place, but we're not doing a podcast about them.
No.
But no, they definitely didn't rely on catchphrases at all, but smashing blouse became something that you immediately associate with something Richie says as a chat-up line. Yeah. One of my favourite things ever during Bottom Live, when I went to see it, it was Bottom Live 4. Scouse woman at the back of the Liverpool Empire, while there was just a tiny little break, completely irrelevant to what was going on stage, just shouted out, "Richie, that's a smashing blouse you've got on!" So scat, and Rick Mail just corpse all over the place, because it was just so perfect. It was just the most hilarious way of like Liverpool accent coming out. Eddie obviously doesn't have any chat-up lines, does he?
One joke I didn't fully get at the time was when Richie says, "I'm so inbred." And the reason I didn't fully get it is because I didn't know what inbreeding was, but also because I'd previously seen The Young Ones and I had The Young Ones book, I was used to them referring to money as bread. And so because it just talked about being rich,
money, when
he said, "I'm so inbred," I thought, oh, he means I'm so in money.
Yeah, it's a good reasoning there with your childhood brain.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
But then your parents explained to you what inbreeding was?
Yes, my mum and dad explained how they were brother and sister.
Yeah.
And,
Sure. So Duke of Kidderminster is his lie that he gives. Why did he pick that place? It's nowhere near London. It's by Birmingham. Why is he here? Is it Duke of Kidderminster?
It's a funny word, isn't it?
I think so.
Use it in the live shows as well. And plus, probably quite close to Rick's heart a little bit, from sort of the Kevin Turvey kind of days, I'd say. Kidderminster, I mean, it's...
Do you think Kidderminster has a Duke? Is there a Duke of Kidderminster?
I very much doubt it.
Yeah, it would be like being the Duke of Milton Keynes or something.
I see.
And it almost sounds sort of regal, doesn't it? Minster.
Yeah.
Kidderminster. I mean, it does almost sound like it should be a title, but of course, I've not actually ever been, so I won't say, but, you know, they've said before it's a shithole.
If you were the Duke of Kidderminster and extremely rich, it wouldn't be, "Oh, and by the way," in my video.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I didn't want to say this, but fuck it, I will anyway.
I love how little time they've given to both of them, really, for their videos. Like it's like the cameraman's cut them off.
Why is it cut to static?
Yeah.
That's why, hang on.
They've run out of tape.
On the subject of Lady Natasha, for me and a few of my friends, that was like a badge of honour. Or you are a true Bottom fan if you could say Lady Natasha, Letitia, Sarah Jane Mosley, Armstrong, It's great. It's such a stupidly long name. Yeah. It's ridiculous. She's really referred to as Lady Natasha, obviously, for time. But that's a inbreeding, regal, royal joke, isn't it? That
the longer your name is, the more important you are, the more royal you are.
One thing to ask you guys: how many Smythes do you believe there are in it?
Can I say the amount?
Not
the
quiz
quotes
at the moment. You can.
Okay, Smythe.
It's 5.
Right. So that is how it is played across the TV show. That's how she delivers it. But if you look in the script book, or indeed at the credits on the episode, there's only 4.
Oh.
Well, we know...
So did she just misread it, said too many Smythes? But I found that... Well, it's not interesting really, is it? But when you're analysing Bottom, I was like, oh wow, so she says 5 Smythes and it's actually 4 in the script.
When Richie's response to hearing Lady Natasha's name, it's like, oh, she sounds... Oh, I'm in love. It's a weird moment. It's not love at first sight. It's love at just hearing a name. What are you talking about?
It's Richie's desperation coming out, isn't it? Just sort of like, oh, I can't wait to meet her. Oh, I think I'm in love already. You know, he's excited. He's like a teenage boy again.
Yeah, it's Richie thinking that the best way to hoodwink a woman into sleeping with him is to pretend to be in love with her. So from that moment when he's pretending to Lady Lineker, and then later on when he's professing his love, it's all part of his master game plan to sleep with her and then marry her and then sell her for lands and buy his kidney back.
It reminds me a bit of Jeremy from Peep Show. He's I like to tell them I love them on the first date. Classic move. So on that subject, actually, I want to bring up Peep Show because there's one or two elements of violence between the two of them. Not many, but there is some similarities between Bottom and Peep Show. It's more of a passive-aggressive violence between the two of them, but there's they're living in a flat together. It's not as cartoonish. I don't know. Have you got this?
Yeah, I've often said I think Peep Show is like Bottom for the 2000s.
There's a mention of Rick from The Young Ones. The impression you did of Rick from The Young Ones in the bar for the rubber duck.
Yeah, I personally think the link is tenuous. I think it's because
they're two guys.
They're two guys living in a house together.
I think I haven't questioned Sam Bain and Jesse Armstrong, but I'm sure they would say that Rick and Ada are an influence on them, as it would be if you're writing comedy and you've grown up with it. I mean, Robert Webb's definitely said he's a huge Rick Mayall and Ada fan.
In his book, he goes on about Rick Mayall a couple of times.
Talking about Peep Show once or twice when they did get physical with each other, and I remember thinking, this feels not quite right for this show.
Because it's very real, isn't it?
It's real, but it's also not that Bottom wasn't cleverly written, but Peep Show is often about the joke and the turn of phrase and that kind of thing, whereas Bottom is often the physical.
Then we pick up in the living room of the flat where Eddie is in a waiter's, a butler's outfit.
Has Richie hired that green velvet?
They do
dinner jacket,
rented trousers at one point, so I guess
because his might have been maybe done pre-prepared and he could put it on better.
I think Richie's sold kidney not only paid for the caviar, it paid for the outfits as well. I really like Richie's green velvet jacket that he's wearing.
I mean, he looks pretty dapper.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't look aristocracy, but
well, he looks less scummy. He's still sweaty and horrible. I would not have said dapper.
What he's wearing wouldn't look out of place on a Doctor Who,
Yes, yeah.
We put out a poll on a Facebook group of who we thought Rick Mayall would make a good Doctor Who.
The consensus was, like Doctor Who's all about either long coats or velvet and that kind of thing.
There's no real rules for the outfit, is there? It's just
I think Rick would have had a fantastic outfit though. Would have been much more extravagant than that. If he had been Doctor
Who. A sort of drop dead Freddy kind of thing.
The Doctor.
Yeah. So what they're wearing is this is Richie's attempt to be upper class, isn't it?
Yes, it's a poor person's idea of what rich people look like. Like Donald Trump. Like gold and
afford with half everywhere. A kidney.
Yeah, so first of all, where's he managed this? Sold a kidney?
Well, it's a dodgy surgeon, isn't it? That Eddie's got in touch with on the black market.
Yeah,
God knows.
Well, how do you know a dodgy surgeon? It's and a back alley type thing. And so he's been cut open, harvested for a kidney, and stitched back up, and he's on his feet completely normally.
In a morning, presumably.
I'm assuming it's the same day. He doesn't specifically say.
Well, he's had a phone conversation with Lady Natasha to set it up, hasn't he? So it's probably, you could say it's been a couple of days or maybe even longer.
It feels like the same day, but it could definitely be a time jump.
I think there's a bit of a time jump for them to have the surgery.
Oh yeah.
Although it can't be that long, can it? Because as we know, as the episode goes on, the operation backfires. So you would think that there's only been a matter of at most a few days.
Yes, and Richie's gone out and bought or hired some bad silverware, a candelabra with 2 used candles in. And
do you think he's bought that? I think that's been upstairs in Auntie's attic or something.
Oh, I feel like he's bought it.
Do you think?
It's just like a shithole flat with the odd prop of nice things about. It's like polishing a turd, isn't it?
Yeah.
It wouldn't fool anyone for a split second. A very throwaway joke, Eddie not having his kidneys bought because they weren't used pickled.
That's I mean, Sarson showed some interest.
Right? Why would they show interest? What were we talking about?
I remember laughing at that gag at the time because I got it. Yeah, I grew up in a house where every Sunday evening for Sunday tea there'd be something that would have a few pickled onions on the side of it, as well as the vinegar was always Sarson, so I got it. And yet it's kind of like the audience doesn't really notice it. It kind of just goes by the audience. You know?
A very throwaway gag, you're right.
I don't think that gag gets the appreciation from the audience that it deserves. That's a really good gag.
It's a great gag.
So do you interest on the concept, the idea of it, or literally buying his kidneys because they're pretty pickled?
Yeah, that he's ruined them through years of alcohol abuse.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it, when you're watching something live that you
Yeah.
might not necessarily pick up on.
There is one or two instances in this episode, actually, where I think a gag kind of gets squashed either because it's not pronounced as loudly as it should be or as clear as it should be, or because the audience is laughing and it kind of goes over it, and so you lose the gag, you know.
Have you ever seen a studio audience comedy thing live?
I went to see Believe Nothing
Okay.
with Rick.
Right.
Really? Brilliant.
Yeah, Adonis Knut,
Yeah.
which was fantastic. Well, seeing it live was fantastic. Obviously,
I don't remember the show.
the show itself was up and down,
Yeah.
but Rick was great.
When he's got high status and doesn't lose any face ever, I find that odd. Don't mind New Statesman at all. I find some very funny bits in it.
I think New Statesman worked because he was playing such a complete bastard, whereas Adonis Knut was sort of neither one thing nor another. He was really intelligent, really sort of. And it didn't just really fit into anything that recognisable. I saw it live being recorded,
sure.
and there is a real atmosphere in a studio recording that it doesn't feel the same as watching it on the telly.
Yeah, like even the worst thing being recorded can feel quite exciting because you're in the room with the energy and that kind of thing, and they get a warm-up person on to warm up the audience, that kind of thing, and you presumably you're excited because Rick's doing stuff between takes, and then you watch the thing that goes out and you go, oh, that doesn't fit, this doesn't feel like the thing I watched at the time. So in the situation with Richie and Eddie when they're in their costumes, they've kind of adopted that thing that Richie is always trying to get them into situation-wise of Richie's the person with a bit of status, Eddie's the subservient guy.
Master servant, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like back when they were in the shop and he wanted him to put his jacket on back to front.
Yes.
Except in this one, there's only a hint of Richie believing the lie that he's perpetuating when he says to Eddie, you're just jealous because you're only a servant. And so in that moment I thought, oh, is he kind of believing this? But then beyond that, Richie never really goes down the route of, I really believe that I'm actually...
No, he knows it's a ruse. I mean,
Right.
he constantly keeps forgetting to call him Jives, doesn't he?
There's a really sweet moment where Richie gives Eddie a thumbs up out of view.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, it's going well. And it's actually kind of out of character that Eddie goes along with this so well. He's like, why do I have to be the servant? So he's kind of being the wingman here. I mean, he tries to shag her, and well, he does.
Yeah, I think he could see that there's something in it for him here as well. He's
Sure.
had a bottle of wine, hasn't he, that he's opened already. And, I mean, he does entertain Richie's complete and utter fights of fancy, doesn't he? He does entertain that.
I read somewhere that he got 300 quid for the kidney, or did I read that but I didn't hear it in the show?
You might have done. It definitely says that's about 200 quid's worth. About half a kidney.
Yeah.
Right.
About 200 quid, I think, is what it said. So you would then guesstimate that
Yeah.
it's 400 quid or thereabouts. But then sometimes you wonder whether Eddie actually pocketed some of it
Well,
Right,
maybe.
yeah.
and only gave Richie the 400.
Yeah.
Because it probably would be a lot more on the black market, wouldn't it, back then?
Did you guys know who Harry Belafonte was?
No.
Not then.
I didn't know then. I'm only vaguely aware now. He's a singer?
Yeah. He sang Deo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Well, the Beetlejuice
many other...
song.
The Beatles, yeah.
There's loads. He's like multi-millionaire.
So why is she calling out Harry Belafonte then? I don't
Again,
understand.
it's just the hilarity of that name, isn't it? Harry Belafonte. It sounds romantic, doesn't it? But if you know who Harry Belafonte is, it's just the most ludicrous thing. Once I found out who he is, it was even more just... That's the most random thing of anything that they could put in there as a name.
I know Harry Belafonte is a real person, but I think Harry must be the most used name for any off-screen person in Bottom
Harry
mentioned.
the Bastard, Harry Grundy.
Yeah.
Harry, I'll do anything for half like Grundy's mentioned in this episode. Who's
Yeah.
had a potato masher. Like the way they mime it, it's like stabbed into him or something. They couldn't get it out. And what, did he swallow it?
This is something weird because Aid and Rick wrote the script, and if you read the line, has he still got it? Yeah, they couldn't get it out of him at the hospital. Now, if you read that line as it's written, you'd think the joke is it's up his arse. But Aid does like a mime of like, oh, I've been stabbed in the chest.
Yeah, or his stomach.
Yeah, it's kind of the middle of his torso. Yeah.
Which kind of ruins the joke, because isn't it a better joke if you think that he shoved it up his arse or had it shoved up his arse? for the sake of doing something for half a pint?
I think it's more of a thing of in the pub he would have just literally stabbed it into himself, like tried to mash his own stomach or something with it, and it's just literally lodged itself there.
It's not even for a pint.
For half a
pint. Yeah, you're right. That mime is in the stomach. So I've always just thought he shoved it in himself.
Also, if A&E can't get something out of someone, it's usually because it's lodged up their arse. I've heard, not because it's been stabbed into their abdomen.
But it's still got it. Like you bought all these other things. Buy a potato masher.
Yeah.
Not expensive.
Yeah.
Or don't make potatoes for your aristocratic lady friend.
Yeah. So mash and caviar, that famous combination.
So still before Lady Natasha turns up, we get another person knocking at the door, which invokes Richie in his nervousness to spit out a venomous "take it easy, you bitch," which I think is brilliant just because of how fucking harsh he comes out with it. This is like the most honest Richie coming out.
And then your bitchness, that will take away. I mean, lady bit, it's like...
How can I rescue this? Oh, well, I can't. So that then goes on to Eddie goes to the door, and it's someone collecting for charity. A woman collecting for victims of domestic violence. In bottom, all violence is equal opportunities. Women can punch men, men can punch women, and it's all in the sake of comedy.
Punch that he gives her is full on in the face. I have never ever seen a man punching a woman in a comedy, and it's just like a reason I think it's okay is because you genuinely can tell there was no gender bias or sexism there. He would have punched anyone who didn't let him take the coat in that moment.
Yeah, and then also...
And he's done it before. I mean, this is what he does with do-gooders.
Yeah.
Like, they punch them in the face and they steal the tin. Because she fights back, I think it forgives it.
Exactly.
If he'd literally punched her in the face, grabbed it, and she'd fallen down the stairs and we thought she'd died, it wouldn't have been
she does die.
funny. It wouldn't have been funny.
The fact that she gives as good as she gets in that is one of the reasons why it kind of works. But yeah, they're just two violent people going hell for leather at it.
The joke is, isn't it? It's not revealed until after they punch each other that it's for victims of domestic violence.
I mean, it's on the line, that joke, isn't it? Really. I mean, I definitely rewatching it thought, I wonder if a commissioner now would approve that in a script.
That was exactly my thought. A commissioner would look at it and say, you want to have a woman collecting for victims of domestic violence be punched in the face by a man at the front door and then be pushed down the stairs? Yes, I do.
I mean, we do keep saying it, but it's a cartoon, isn't it? That's what you've got to keep reminding yourself, that it could be anyone stood there. Yeah. It's actually funnier that it's a woman. If you're finding that funny, it's funnier because it is a woman.
Domestic violence.
Because she's giving as good as she's getting to Eddie, but it's actually... I think that's why they will have done it. If it was a bloke, it wouldn't play the same at all. But she's like really, really aggressive back.
Yeah.
You know, she's defending herself. And that's played by a Kelly Hunter.
Okay. She done much else?
She is actually a member of the Royal Shakespeare Company. She's a member of the National Theatre. She's done all sorts of theatre work. Amazing actress, really, to have ended up doing a little cameo like this in Bottom. She's also been in DL and Pascoe, Holby City, and going back to Doctor Who, she was in the 750th episode as the Shadow Architect in The Stolen Earth. That's alongside David Tennant.
Well, I hope
the Doctor.
I hope the playbills at the National Theatre, whenever she's in something, mention Bottom over anything else.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the only thing that we recognise her from, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's one little throwaway line that I want to question. When Richie says, I actually do have a lot of aristocratic blood in me because of the payoffs, like a load of nobbins. Because they all give blood, don't they? As if that's a matter-of-fact thing. Do they?
Do aristocrats give blood more often than other people? No, they're more selfish than anyone.
What the hell would they give blood for that much?
Yeah.
It's a well-known thing. Oh, you know, the aristocrats. Oh, what, those people just give blood? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Also, why has Richie had a lot of transfusions?
Well, because he's always been attacked and beaten up, I imagine that was the joke.
I think that's what I mean, I don't know whether, there's an inference that you've been sick as a boy. I've never really thought of it like that.
The follow-on from the charity woman visiting, I understand Eddie coming in with a charity tin full of money and putting it away. I never really got a bit of a coat. We'll put it with the others. I assume the joke is when charity people come, we fight them and a bit of coat gets torn away?
Yeah, that is what it is,
Okay.
Because it's more clear, it's written in the script that they open up the cupboard full of charity tins and several scraps of coat, and you don't notice the coat bits really. They are there, definitely. Your eyes are drawn to the charity tin.
It strangely makes me think all of the young ones. I don't know why. That weird little detail of coats in the cupboard.
Interesting.
I don't know why, but just sort of like props and things that used to talk and all that sort of stuff. I don't know why. It just feels like it's some kind of little echo of keeping strange little things in the cup. But I mean, I think you're right. It's because he's punched them,
and he's not opened them up and spent the money. Also, he's so adept at it now. He can tell how much money it is by looking at it through, like, hanging it up to his eye.
There's something in this that reminds me of The Young Ones as well. It's a bit later, but I'll mention it now. It's what I refer to as the curtain fight, where they go off to that part of the kitchen and have the fight. It's them playing with the conventions of TV making and sitcom, where they pull the curtain back and the actors are the wrong way round for the end of the fight, and he does hang on, this isn't right.
Yeah, like he wasn't aware of what was happening behind the curtains as well, because that'd be a lesson, and it's like now he's seeing what we're seeing.
I think, is that quite Laurel and Hardy / sort of old school slapstick?
It felt to me a bit like that thing in The Young Ones where the image spins, and when it comes back, they're all in different each other's characters. You know?
And again, it happens in cartoons.
That one. Okay, that's passage of time in Bambi, isn't it? When they've got to go to sleep and then come up.
And is that when they wake up?
They'll run back downstairs. I don't feel like myself.
Yeah, that's the one.
Talk about the master-servant dynamic. Like Richie's having a fucking field day, literally being in charge of Eddie. It makes their statuses different, doesn't it? You notice that Eddie doesn't question him as much. He really is going along with the ride, and it's very reminiscent of Filthy Rich and Cat Flap, I find.
Right, yeah.
With him being his minder, and Rick doesn't get as much violence towards him as he does normally in an episode. Eddie is the receiver more often. I was going to say,
yeah, there's a lot of bollock punching in this episode, usually with the squelchy sound effect. Richie, usually out of frustration that Eddie isn't getting what he's saying or the situation isn't going the way he wants, then just resolves to punch Eddie in the face.
The fork in the eye bit, I really like this one. It's so
severe.
It's so proper in, and his head goes with it when he's pulling it out.
It's a sort of thud, isn't it? Yeah.
And then he's just like, his eyes squinting a little bit, and then completely normal as, cartoon.
Yeah.
I think the squashing of the potatoes with Eddie's head as well is
into the
particularly satisfying somehow. That sort of metal scraping sound, and then the pop as he takes the pan off.
Yeah, and he squashes his face into that suspiciously bendy pan that seems to move with the shape of his head. But yeah, it's the noise as he takes it off, and the fact there's mashed potato under his glasses, between his glasses and his eyes. But that is a great punchline to such a literal thing. You just have to use your head. What do you mean? This face in there.
What was Richie thinking with his intended first impression to Lady Natasha?
With his high-waisted underpants.
Takes his jacket off, takes his trousers off, and shows off his pants.
May as well get it out now.
He's showing off. It's sort of like that's how if he was a girl, that's how he would be attracted to a man. In their
pants.
And it's reminiscent of the naked man in How I Met Your Mother. That tactic, it's a thing of just basically the date's not going that well, the girl's out the room, get naked, and then
I've not seen that,
and it works 1 in 3 times.
Right, okay, and the other 2 times they run off.
2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 times. Is there another? One time it doesn't work.
I would say, in terms of bottom, considering how legendarily small Richie's penis is established to be, he's really keen to get undressed and get it out in front of women as often as possible, isn't he?
In this episode.
He offers to get it out twice, and he gets his pants out once.
We haven't mentioned yet about Helen Lederer's performance in this.
So Lady Natasha turns up.
Great cough to announce herself as well while he's battering Eddie's head.
She turns up 12 minutes into the episode.
Quite a way into it.
Yeah. I always think of this as almost a free-hander, this episode.
Yeah.
She's a guest star that really stands out in my mind, anyway. I remember her very fondly. There's obviously Dave Hedgehog and Spud Gun.
Yeah.
Dickhead, and then I'd think her...
Yeah, she's got a lot of lines, and she's a real integral part of the show, isn't she?
Yeah.
And that arrival, when she does just clear her throat as he's...
I love the joke, sorry I was late, there was a dead body on the stage.
And her accent straight away as well, because she's the Vice-Countess of Moldavia.
So she's so nonplussed about a dead body. She doesn't seem shaken up or any kind of grief anywhere.
Yeah. That's one of the
Eddie's a murderer. Then we say that's completely.
She's not sure that it's from their flat, I suppose, is she? But she's stepped over the dead body and not done anything about it. So that sort of gives you a little bit of an insight into what her personality is like, because she's probably used to it, isn't she, in Moldavia? The thing about her, I think, is that she doesn't really react to any of their eccentricities because she is of aristocratic blood.
What is wrong with her? I want to say there's something so weird about that character.
Well,
Yeah.
is it not also partly that she is on the make trying to get in with this guy who she thinks is rich?
Oh,
so
yeah.
therefore
Why
she'll
does she
she'll
think he's
accept
rich?
anything.
Why does she think he's rich? There's no evidence that
She's
she's a
believed-
fucking idiot.
She's believed the Duke of Kidderminster line.
Yes,
She's
I know,
believed
but why
it.
is she? There's no evidence at all.
But she could be on the make in that she might not even be the third Vice-Comtesse of Moldavia, might she? But I do believe that she is, and she's come to England to try and
Yeah,
sort of
she says-
save the family name and fortune.
There's so many fakers.
Which means she's already tried it on with others.
But does she mean... Oh, yeah, a very good point. But her saying there's so many fakers, is she suspecting there? Because she's had a bad first impression there.
No,
is that a thing, testing the water?
I think she's saying there are so many fakers genuinely. I think she is convinced that this is a butler being beaten up by... Even though she's entered a flat in Hammersmith.
Yeah.
I love her earrings. Straight away, that's what you notice about her character. I think they're just like little chandeliers.
I'm
like,
going to say
dangling.
that when I was watching this as it went out as a 12-year-old, it wasn't her earrings that I noticed.
Well, no,
It was
obviously her
amazing
cleavage.
cleavage.
Yeah,
You don't notice her cleavage straight away.
Well, you do when she pops a polo
Yeah.
down. In
Then
between
you
her
do.
boobs. Yeah.
Everybody
But there's
notices
a bit
that.
Eddie reacts to the cleavage before you've seen the cleavage.
Yeah,
so I found that a bit
The
strange.
blatant lifting of the potato
peering.
smeared glasses and staring down there, and
He peers, but then kind of like looks back at Richie as though to say, "Hey, get a load of this."
Yeah, sure.
then it's like, "She's my bird, get off!" And then
Beats him with the umbrella in a scene that becomes quite reminiscent to me of the frying pan scene with the gas man, because
bit.
it
It's
goes
right.
on too long and then it stops and then you get another
Yeah.
one at the end.
He's whimpering on the floor at one point.
Yeah.
He's probably like hands up. I've never seen that from Eddie. Never.
no, well, he's playing the part well, isn't he, as
Yeah.
a butler? But I think because usually he'd be given as good as he gets.
Yeah.
Sure.
But he's absolutely in the role of
Yeah.
convincing this woman that Richie's...
In terms of it as giving as good as he gets, when Richie says to him, "Okay, Eddie, do your stuff," after Richie has just punched him in the bollocks, I like how Eddie doesn't refer to what he's about to do, just as standard, right, hitting the bollocks for Richie, there we go, that's out of the way, now I've done that, I'll move on and take your coat, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, obviously I'm going to hit you in the bollocks, Richie. That goes without saying.
Yeah, he's not going to let him win every single one, is he?
Why doesn't Lady Natasha know how to link arms?
I think the insinuation is that she's not from England.
I didn't notice it until watching it back for this episode. The little look that Richie gives when the polo goes down there.
Oh, right, yeah, it's the kind of...
Split second. Oh, yeah, sure.
Where's she put that?
Yeah.
Why did she do that? Just don't take a polo.
No
Do
pockets.
you want a polo? No, thank you. Do you want a polo? Yeah, all right. Down the tits.
It's rude not
obviously.
to. I think that's...
It's
not,
rude to put food down your tits.
Okay.
Did you guys get the Batman reference? I didn't know at the time that
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, so I knew who Bruce Wayne
Yeah.
was. I knew who Batman was in the comic book
My
sense.
Batman.
But I didn't know what if you said this is my Batman, it means my assistant.
Just
you know.
through a context, I kind of understood.
Yeah,
but
I
no,
can-
I had not heard it before.
Yeah, I was kind of able to vaguely discern it, but yeah, I didn't quite get the reference fully at the time. You know.
No, not at the time.
They're talking about the flat as well, and you know, the charming flat.
Yeah.
As he says that. This is my London pomme de terre. My London potato.
Another...
That's very Del Boy like, isn't it?
It is
Yeah,
a bit,
getting it
yeah.
wrong, because it's Pied Affair,
Pierre d'État? Yeah.
I think, is the correct way, which just basically means an apartment that you don't live in permanently, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
So it's great, isn't it? He's just misheard what it is.
Sure.
Pomme de terre, and it just... This is my London potato.
He's
Yeah.
really trying to show up like his class and stuff, and also his jibes. What was it that Shakespeare used to say? But if you said to someone, what was it Shakespeare used to say? What the fuck are you talking about? He said loads of things. I don't know.
Yet another one of the things that Richie gets exasperated with Eddie about to the point that he hits him. But in this one, I kind of think you know it's coming based on where Adrian Emerson has planted himself and where you can see Rick Mayall's elbow is, you know? So you kind of know a bollock hit's coming, and it does come, and you get another squelch noise with it.
Very satisfying squelch noise.
When they have dinner, I like Eddie's announcements. Herm has got the pan and stuff. There's
Yeah,
a big
the-
shit clunk in it. Yeah.
That's like when you have the, oh look, the clock's approaching, here
Yeah.
it comes, donk.
What
Yeah.
was that young ones on the bottom? I can't
I
remember.
think both.
I also love how Richie breaks his character there and says, Eddie, what do you mean? We're not even sitting at the table yet. And he says to her, hurry up or he'll wolf the lot.
Yeah,
Right.
your
He
butler,
forgets
your
that
butler
he's the
will wolf
butler.
the lot.
Yeah.
What are you talking about,
Yeah,
Richie?
no, he's gone back into that's Eddie and he's going to eat all the dinner.
Do you guys now in life, when you're referring to hors d'oeuvres, call them
Hors d'oeuvres.
Hors duvet.
Horse duvets? Yeah. But again, this is so it's an episode absolutely full of double entendres. Pork, portion, can we see yours? Have you strained your vegetables?
Yeah.
I think it manages to straddle just the right line of not verging into carry on, you know?
Yeah, it became their signature thing in Bottom.
I think if anything is not a catchphrase, but the double entendre I think is just second to violence as the thing of Bottom.
After they've done the Shakespeare thing and they go and sit at the table,
squash potatoes.
But do you feel that gag again gets a little bit lost because the sound effect of him sitting down,
small, isn't it?
It's quite subtle. So I don't know if the audience picked up on it or whether they heard it at the time, whether it was played live at the time. And so the gag, I feel it doesn't fall flat. So Richie says quite possibly, Eddie, I think I just sat down too fast. But by the time he's ending that gag, Ade Edmondson is distracting the audience with another funny thing, which is the attempt to flick the mashed potato off the spoon.
That's very isn't it?
And she eats it off the spoon, I think.
Why is she impressed by mash and caviar?
Yeah, she's definitely on the make, and she's tolerating what's going on because she's ready to say yes to anything in order to marry into money. She's a gold digger.
I've got one piece of advice that I'm going to give, and this is absolutely true. I have done this before. You know when you say things, if you're on a date, thinking the other person will get the joke? Never, ever, if you're on a date, say the other person's name and then say, that is your name, isn't it? Unless you know for a fact they're 100% Bottom fan, they won't get it. And then if you say, I was joking, it's a quote, you've lost them, they don't believe you.
Well, then get your bottom book out.
Yeah.
So no, look, there.
Yeah, that'll get the white hot then.
Yeah.
The R rolling for caviar. Yeah. It's putting more class on it, I suppose.
Yeah. Rick's facial expressions in this, whenever he's going down the I'm turned on, I'm perverted route, are brilliant. You know, his looks when Lady Natasha seems to be giving him the right signals. That's proper classic meme-worthy Rick Mail, you know?
That scene, I think even when I watched it when I was a kid, it felt very creepy. The way his sweat is there and he's so close to her, isn't he? Really, really intensely close and staring at her.
He calls her his fiancée before he's popped the question as well.
Does he?
Yes. After pork. Right. It's like, how dare you? She's my fiancée. Right. Why does she not go, what are you talking about?
Interestingly, though, in the outtake that isn't in, but it's at the top of the episode that was taken out, he does actually say marriage bureau.
Okay.
To edit these marriage bureaus. So he has gone with the specific intent to marry whichever woman it is, even though he realises it's a woman that is rich and therefore it's even more that he's going to marry her. From the very off, he said marriage bureau. So I think for Richie, this is, I'm going to meet a woman, I'm going to marry her, and then my life will be complete. And
have you seen that Louis Theroux episode with the Thai brides?
Oh yeah.
This northern guy who wants to be in love, and there's this woman's like, our love is like a burning flame, it'll be here forever, and the woman's like, yes. It's just blankly I don't understand.
Looks at the camera. What's he saying? Yeah.
I of course I'll marry you, she says. Of course I will. What could be more normal than proposing after knowing me for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
But there's such a brilliant moment where Rick goes from she's agreed to marry me to the dirty,
one
filthy
eyebrow comes up and it's the smile.
Then there's the players would you practice it? You know, it's just...
That's it. The line is, do you believe in sex before marriage? Which is so outdated now.
That's like a 70s sitcom kind of trope, isn't it? That would be a bit like the Rodney Trotter thing in 80s Only Fools and Horses.
Where he found the condom in the...
Yeah. Oh no, there's a condom. Oh no, sex before marriage.
Yeah.
Oh.
I suppose he's playing an aristocrat.
Yeah, he's been brought up a Christian, hasn't he? He's said quite a few times. So he thinks, marriage, and that's when you've got to wait for, really. I mean, in some ways, maybe that's why he never got his end away when he was younger. But no, it's because Richie's never going to get his end away. He hasn't met the sadist yet.
How good is the gag, scrape off the sheets? And it gets the best groan from the audience.
Actually, she's clearly, as you say, she's on the make. If not, she's deaf. Because the amount, I'm going to do it, I'm really going to do it. No reaction at all, anything. Yeah. Can you hear someone say, see you in a mo, and not saying sex mo?
A sex mo.
I've said it to parents back then. Sex mo, sorry. So when Eddie is alone with her and he questions her, then she says, well, I am tempted, Eddie. Tempted? Are you tempted? But you called him Eddie, so you know he's not Jives. You know something's going on weird there.
A good con woman would keep her options open at all times.
I suppose so.
And do you think she actually maybe slightly fancies him a little bit?
Maybe. Well, she does fuck him, so yeah.
He's got potato all over his face. She clearly loves yumming that up.
Yeah. You know, he's wearing a seductive bow tie. Maybe this is how he seduced Ethel Cardew. Spud gun fired potato all over his face from his knob, apparently. And I think it's now time to have a word from our sponsor.
It comes from the sun and the soil, the golden goodness of corn. Only one leading oil is made purely from corn. That's Mazola Pure Corn Oil. Mazola, the only leading oil made purely from natural golden corn.
Right, so then we see Richie's bedroom. We haven't seen this since Apocalypse episode.
Yeah, since he was reading War and Peace and got interrupted by Death, played by Eddie.
So he's in his pyjamas again. I think we saw him in his pyjamas before.
Same set.
Yeah, well, he does change the bottoms, doesn't he? Because one assumes he comes in them because he's overexcited.
Well, actually, he's in his best set, isn't he? He's in his best set of yellow pyjamas with a sort of satin kind of look to the stripes, isn't he?
Now, we go to his room, and there's one thing that I am now aware of in his room, which I won't claim to have noticed first time. I think, Matt, you made me aware of this, although, Angela, you had seen it as well.
Tissues
stuck to the wall.
Yeah.
Above the bin.
A little toy castle there as well. I didn't notice until this time watching it.
Oh, really?
On the floor,
I noticed that.
Just got a toy. I don't know. That's interesting. I hadn't noticed that. There's also a sink.
The kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Well, he pulls the kitchen sink off the wall when in episode 3, it's season 3, when he's, they pack everything but the kitchen sink, isn't it? It's the joke.
Yeah, but the bedroom sink isn't there, is it, in the first series? I don't think it's in there.
I don't remember seeing it.
I don't think it's there in the first one, no.
No, unless you just don't quite see it because it's off the camera. But there's definitely a basin in there, isn't there? But going back to the sticky tissues, which have been thrown from the bed at the general direction of the bin, and 2 have stuck to the wall in various sort of it's the trajectory that I like the most about that.
It's a great thrown away detail in the background. Never gets referenced, never gets focused on.
Sure.
It's overflowing the bin as well with tissues, isn't it?
Sure.
That is a great detail. It's the laziness of that. We're just throwing it. And
I'm just going to hurl it like a kid in class throwing. I'm going to throw it like a kid in class throwing papier-mâché at someone else.
Yeah, it is referenced in that she comes in and says, "This is a very sexy room."
I suppose so.
So maybe she can actually smell.
Come, dry and come.
Yeah. Oh, that's just occurred to me.
We've skipped over the Joy of Sex book. Well, it's more Joy of Sex, isn't it? Now,
he's on to the second volume because he's obviously used the first one.
He's mastered the first one already.
Sure. Well, obviously the beard there I get. That's it's a 70s Afro bush. But the thing is, I hope he's cleaned his teeth. What does that mean? Why? Well, you need
it's very unhygienic.
What do you mean? What after and need to clean your teeth?
Yeah, I think he's been.
Or do you need minty fresh breath for when you go?
No,
I've
always thought that he's been.
He's been at her what?
He's been at her lady garden,
right? Yeah.
Doing his thing, and then I thought it's on to the next page where they're perhaps maybe more kissing or something.
Right.
I don't know. I've never read more Joy of Sex,
sure,
but I've always thought that I've hoped it's that after that act.
Yeah. Maybe.
I remember, or I think I remember, watching it and not quite getting the... he starts doing that circular thing with the finger. Because he's doing it in front of his face, my thoughts were, what's he doing in the woman's face? Like, is that in her mouth? Basically, because he's bowling overarm with his fingers. If he was bowling underarm with his fingers, you'd kind of get the reference more.
Same with me, kind of. I thought it was him playing with a nipple.
How you were when you were younger, right?
Yeah, this was me yesterday.
Hang on, what's he doing?
I like how bored he looks as well when he puts the book down and look. Imagine someone fingering you with that fed up look.
Well, he doesn't understand, does he?
Yeah,
he doesn't understand foreplay. He doesn't even know what foreplay is. But Rick plays that so well.
Well, she didn't need any foreplay. She was good to go, didn't she? She's such an aggressive kisser. Fucking attacks him almost.
She's being seductive, isn't
That is in the script, though.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
It says it has to be very, very strong kiss. I reckon Rick's written that in, hasn't he? for Helen to really, really snog him.
This is the sort of thing that it's the only time we see it. It's the closest he ever gets to having sex.
Yeah.
And he's all talk. He's a nervous boy when he comes to it.
Yeah,
he can't. His hands. Come on.
His sex talk of the Eskimo and the igloo.
He's trying to avoid the subject when now it's actually happening. Oh God, I can't face it.
Yeah, he just wants to talk for a couple of hours.
Well, now I finally got you here, but I just came. Let's talk until I can get that boner back.
I suppose.
Do you think
that's
what
the
it
thing.
is? He's buying time.
No. I think it's that he's so nervous that he almost doesn't want to.
But he does say that she strips off and all clothing kind of comedically gets thrown at him.
Yeah, one item at a time.
Yeah. And then she's got her gloves on still, which I think is quite sexy.
It is.
Yeah, and a watch.
And watch over her gloves as well.
And her earrings, I think.
That's the watch won't get stolen, probably.
Maybe.
Yeah, but I remember watching that, and I was only like 9.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the sexiest scenes I'd ever seen.
Quite sexy, yeah.
Not that it turned me on, because it's not a scene that turns you on, but you're there with Richie, aren't you? You're kind of willing it to happen for him, even though you know in the back of your mind what's going to stop this now. She's in his bed.
Yeah. Just before that, when he was talking about how naughty he's been in the room, I knew what swearing was. I got doodling on the walls.
Flick the V's.
I didn't know what flick the V's out the window meant. In fact, I wasn't sure if I'd misheard it as flick the P's, and then I was like, no, he's definitely said V's, and it's not until later I realised it was to make the V sign at someone.
You flick the V's out of a car window and stuff, but out of your own window.
They know where you live. They're going to come and get you, surely. Unless it's the same guy who keeps on throwing food at every time he walks past. It's a great thing in this scene that, although Richie tries to put it off as much as possible, Lady Natasha eventually gets in there and she's going to do it with
lead him to the goalposts.
And
actually,
what he thinks is a heart attack starts. Thus, once again, fate has cruelly robbed him of his chance. But even in what is potentially death for him, he still tries to just eke out this tiny... It's all right.
Can you imagine
it's
the
okay.
poor woman being like, what, a guy having a heart attack while nervously fucking you? Is everything okay?
With the penis that's still soft, because presumably you won't be able to get it hard in that amount of time.
I doubt you can maintain erection through a heart attack. Because the blood
died during the act, haven't they?
Well, the blood would rush to the heart, or so. I don't know. Well, that's where it comes from, right?
It doesn't suck all the blood from the rest of your body.
I don't know.
Like a deflating balloon.
Well, mind you, it's not a heart attack, though, is it? It's
his kidney.
And his bladder.
How much agony must it have been for Richie to have to wait 5 hours for an ambulance, which is apparently how long it took?
That's a comment on the NHS, isn't it? Like waiting for. We got bored waiting for the ambulance to arrive. But do you believe that it was 5 hours? I actually think Eddie probably and her.
Can you believe? Yeah,
straight on it.
Do you think he rang 999 and said, "Oh, actually, sorry, we don't need an ambulance"?
Fact, if anything, maybe they did it before they even called the ambulance.
It's so weird. We got bored waiting, isn't it? What? And they can't have waited that long. So, hang on. You did say. Remember, just a moment ago, you said if anything happens to Richie, he has just sort of died.
Yeah, she probably came on to him because she was fired up. Well, she was ready. The fact that Eddie tells him though,
he sort of slips up. He slips up, doesn't he? So she was crap anyway.
Yeah.
And that was just
he's trying to console him.
Yeah.
And then,
he's actually trying to be nice.
What do you mean? And then nervous. Well, and he's also just had some gas and air, isn't he? So maybe that's why he slips up.
Which is why he says it's a very pretty colour, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are the heart paddles the most inventive weapon ever used on Bottom?
Maybe. I like the first of the pretext of is like, oh, there you go, feeling poorly again. Well, you can use it on yourself.
But feeling poorly with a sort of chuckle and rolling his eyes towards camera. Oh,
yeah,
he's
does he
doing
think that Richie's like hamming up the illness at that point?
Yeah.
That's one of my favourite freeze frames. I think.
It's the way
light. Well, not the lightning, but the electricity.
The electricity stuff's a stock effect, isn't it?
It's the electricity, but also the way Ade Edmondson sort of throws his arms out and his head back as he's doing it.
Yeah.
It's a great freeze frame ending to the episode.
And Rick's really relishing doing it as well.
I've always wondered what medically has happened to it. It's bizarre he hasn't died. Because the whole system what system? Your digestive system. That's out. The whole thing backfired.
Your kidney cleans your blood and your bladder gets rid of piss.
So has he now got piss in his vein?
I mean, obviously it's that backstreet surgeon that he's hired. Like, I would love to. They don't give him a name. Why didn't they? Of all the characters.
How do you think Eddie and Natasha eventually parted company?
I think she just went on her way when she realised there was no money.
So how good was Helen Lederer in the episode? I know we'd seen her in one episode before in the first series. Smaller role. Really good in this one.
A standout role for her, I think. And obviously, I'm a Bottom fan, and so that's where I predominantly know Helen Lederer from. I've seen her in Ab Fab, and she's a superb performer. But I think this is a standout thing for her, certainly from the 90s. It sits in the mind of any comedy fan who's into that era of the comic strip, and obviously she's in a lot of things. But I think Lady Natasha. Perfect role. I think they must have written it for her.
So, any sound effects of note in the episode? For me, nearly every bollock punch that goes, you get a kind of squelchy noise. The fork in the eye is a very good one as well.
Very good one.
Yeah, the dogs recur, of course, when she gets
Yes.
the mallet to the face down the stairs.
So I'm actually going to go with the very small throwaway squashed potatoes. The small splat, because you don't notice it the first time. I didn't anyway.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's the squashed potatoes of the face in the pan as well. I think I really enjoy that. And then the pop.
So, any standout moments for you guys?
Richie's video.
Yeah.
Definitely. The nervous energy from Rick in that and the mania that's building.
For me, weirdly, it's Lady Lineker reading out Lady Natasha's full name.
Right, yeah.
That's the
Ending
bit
with Dub.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Boblamov, Dob. Yeah.
I really love how after he smashes the plate over his head and says there's no one stupid in the Hitlers, he looks so proud. Yeah.
Oh, we have missed out the reveal that Eddie's mum is called Adolf Hitler.
Which is why he always says yes when he's asked any relation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any particular niggles in the episode for you guys?
I think that for a first back into the series, this episode couldn't have been any more perfect, really, in terms of the plot, the way it's put together, the upstairs downstairs element. There's so much sort of class balance again that we're sort of seeing, Richie's idea of what aristocracy is. You know. No, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's so good that there was too much material.
Yeah.
They had to chop out the first sort of, it's a good 5 minutes.
That's true. The episode was so good that they had to cut stuff from it. Yeah.
In case you don't know, every episode of Talking Bottom we do a quiz.
It's back with me as Quizmaster. So what are your fart noises then?
Mine's going to be wet fart today, which sounds like this.
And mine is going to be airy fart, which sounds like this.
Fingers on sphincters. Question number 1. On what date did Digger first air?
1st of October 1992.
That is correct.
Look that up.
I
Did
did.
you know it?
Question number 2. On the wall behind Eddie in the waiting room at Lily Lineker's Love Bureau, there is a magazine article printed out. What is the headline?
Guide for dating? Tips for dating?
Ooh. What are you going for?
Oh, fucking hell.
Am I going to take your first answer?
Tips for dating.
Are you going with that?
You motherfucker.
Am I going for the first answer?
If the answer is guide for dating...
Well, I'm going to go with Guide for Dating.
Well, you're both wrong in a way. It's guide to dating rather than for.
Oh,
you got that, Paul. You got that. I'll give you that.
Okay, you sure you don't want to take it off because there wasn't a full stop at the end of it?
Question number 3. Lily pairs Eddie with Sarah Ferguson. Back in 1992, there were images of Sarah Ferguson indulging in some toe sucking. Oh.
Wait,
I haven't even asked what the question is.
We both thought the answer was going to be toe sucking, didn't
Yeah.
we?
Absolutely, yeah.
She's having her toes sucked. Who by?
I think I was first. Captain Mark Phillips? Was that the guy? No?
No, that's incorrect.
Oh.
Can pass it over to Matt if you can
Fuck me.
steal.
So this is just my subconscious splat this out. Is it Andy Redknapp?
What?
No then.
No, that's a false allegation.
Who was it?
Her financial advisor named John Bryan. Okay, so neither of you got that one, so we're at 2 with Paul. Question number 4. When Lady Natasha suggests Richie has been naughty in his room, he lists 3 things. What are they?
Well,
I can tell you. I
hang
can
on.
tell you quickly.
Swearing, doodling on the walls, flicking the V's.
Yeah.
That is correct. You're going to have to be quicker on your buzzer, Matt. Number 5. On the sink in Richie's bedroom, there's a tube of what brand hairspray?
I don't even know any hairspray brands.
I don't know.
Hairspray.
I would have said like Brill Cream or something like that, but hairspray.
Pass.
I don't know. No,
It's Cossack.
I've never even heard of that.
No.
Well, it's there.
Okay.
You can look it up.
Sounds like a racial slur.
Yeah. You Cossack.
Number 6. What name is attributed in the credits to the do-gooder collective for victims of domestic violence?
Fuck, you told us, but I can't. Oh no, wait.
No, we didn't discuss her name.
Oh no, I was about to say Lisa Maxwell, but that was the other person, right?
So the character name.
Charity woman.
No.
Domestic.
Matt, can you steal?
It's gonna
She's
be.
got a name.
Oh really?
She's given a title, yeah. They always give them a title.
Okay. No,
No?
don't
What
know.
was it?
Mrs. Gascoigne.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, it's there. It's in the script book as well.
Okay.
Question number 7. When Eddie/Jives puts the collection tin in the cupboard, which 2 charities' labels are on display?
So there's Cancer Research and RSPCA.
I'm afraid that's incorrect.
Complete guess.
Okay. Lifeboats.
No.
I don't know.
They're clearly there if you pause it.
Are they real charities?
Yeah.
Go on, what
so
are they?
It's Oxfam in the
Right.
bottom right. And you can tell by the label on one of the other ones, and it says the Battle of Britain, and it's the Wings Appeal. How many light switches are on the wall behind Richie and Eddie in Lily Lineker's office?
Fucking hell. 4.
Correct.
Yes! That was a total guess.
Yeah, but weird that.
Yeah.
There's 4 light switches.
It's not that much of a light room, you know.
Yeah, it's anyway. I know it's that, but weird.
Okay. Well, do you want to do the other questions?
Yeah, which is completely defunct, but there we go. Right, so Eddie's bird that fell in love with him is Harry Belafonte, but how is Harry Belafonte better known? The king of
soul.
Incorrect.
Very
famous singer. He's called the
Swing?
Calypso.
Okay.
And we're on to number 10.
Right.
Starring as Lady Natasha in Digger is Helen Lederer, of course. She recently appeared at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe with a show entitled what?
Oh, I don't know. Life of the Fast Lane.
Nope.
I might as well say it.
That is correct, Paul.
I didn't get a single
You were
question.
listening.
I was.
I didn't get a single question. It's an absolutely horrific performance.
Never mind. And it's only for fun.
I thought it went rather well, actually.
Yeah, sure.
So
that Paul's romped away with that one. You don't even need the tie-break question, which neither of you would have got because you haven't watched the extra 5 minutes at the top of the episode.
Okay.
Do you want to read it out for the fans at home?
Yeah, go on. Someone at home might know.
In bottom enlargement in Digger, Richie and Eddie discuss the thong that Richie wore in Weston-super-Mare and the photographs that he took. Richie believes that they didn't come out in development, but Eddie counters this and says, no, they were seized by the police because...
For evidence?
No.
A gag about gross indecency?
You're very... Yeah, so that is what he says.
And then Richie says something like, well, it was gross indecency.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then he changed it. He said, oh, sorry, minute indecency.
Right. See, I don't know if I'm remembering it from that or whether it's because they used it then in something
later,
else.
Yeah, it is later. They have them in Bottom Live and then in the holiday episode in Series 3.
Yeah. Well, next week, it's someone else's turn and it's culture. Yeah.
Yes, it'll be my turn for the quiz. And yeah, it's another one of the two-hander episodes.
Looking forward to that. If you have any comments, nice or nasty, please send them to 11mafkingparade@gmail.com or tweet us, Facebook us, or Instagram us at Talking Bottom.
Thanks very much for listening, everyone.
Bye.